Welcome back to COSMEHOLICS Anonymous. I am your favorite mother of two, Bougie Vintage, and today's video is a sewing DIY. We are going to be making mommy and me outfits. So we're actually going to start off with making our baby onesie. I obviously have to make two, but we're only going to show you one on camera, and we're going to start with Belle's. So I've taken all of Belle's measurements. I've measured her back, I've measured her torso, like around the circumference, and I've measured the circumference of her thighs as well, because obviously she has to put her legs through the onesie. So I'm basically drawing it freehand. This is not ideally how you would make a pattern, but this is what we're doing today. If you don't want to do this, you can just take an old onesie and trace it, and that'll basically give you a perfect pattern, and you're not going to have to work it out the way I have. When I started this project, it was early and I was so tired, so I wasn't like paying attention to what I was doing, and so you're gonna see me draw out this pattern, but then I'm gonna end up cutting the pattern basically in half because I made it to half of her measurement, which would have been way too big. The pattern should only be a quarter of her body. So now, using a pencil, I actually decided that I didn't want to place the side or the front on the fold. I wanted to place the crotch on the fold so I wouldn't have to connect it later and I'd have a cleaner finish. So that's actually why I'm not placing my pattern on the fold, and I'm just using a pencil since I'm working with white to trace out the pattern on one side, and then I flip the pattern back on this side, as you can see, and I'm gonna cut out the fabric. So now I'm laying my fabric flat, and I'm going to do two little snips right at the center just to make my folding easier, and I'm going to pin down the seam. So on all four of these pieces, you're going to see me pinning it down so that I can know exactly where I want to sew it. This is when you're going to decide if you want to include elastic in the leg or not. I would say including elastic is best because when I made Bellamy's outfit, I did not put elastic in her legs, but when I did Salem's, I did put elastic, and I didn't film Salem's part. So I can show you guys that in a different video at a different day, okay? Here I'm just doing a rolled hem for the top of the onesie, and I'm going to do a flat stitch to secure it. But before I get into sewing this, I'm just going to jump into the mommy dress, and then we're going to come back and sew everything. So this is the same pattern that I used to make the t-shirt dress that I did with the Tommy Hilfiger logo. So that's why I didn't show me cutting it out. It's the exact same pattern. I'll link the video below just to expedite this. And so I'm actually cutting out 4 pieces of fabric in the exact same pattern. Reason being is because I need this to be doubled to give me not only, you know, a good quality piece of work, but also so that it's not see-through. Like, okay, you're gonna need it to be doubled for thickness because white shows through always. Honestly, if I could do like 4 layers and it wouldn't be too thick and bulky, I would, but 2 layers for the front and the back is good. So I'm basically just pinning the lining to the front and the back of the dress, and I'm going to secure it with some straight stitches, and then we're gonna move right along. So once we've pinned everything, we can go ahead and sew the baby's onesie. So this is the crotch area or around the thigh, and I'm just showing you guys that I actually rolled it so that the finish on it is going to be really clean instead of having like a unfinished hem on the inside because I'm not serging. Once I do that, I am then going to sew the sides together and make sure that you have right sides together. You don't want to sew your onesie on the wrong side. And you're just going to do the side seams and close it up, and you're basically done the onesie. So it's super simple if you don't add elastic to it. I do end up cutting some of the top off because it was way too long for Bellamy, but that's because I had used a onesie to get her back measurement because I forgot to get it at first, and the onesie that I was using was bigger than it needed to be, so yeah. So once you're done, you'll have something that looks like that, and we're gonna go ahead and sew my lining, and then we're also going to attach the dress at the sides and then add the elastic. So I'm speeding through most of this because, I mean, the dress pattern is so simple, you don't really need to see me making the whole entire dress. The most important thing in this tutorial is going to be the tutu and the sleeves. So once it's fully lined, you're gonna see that you can't see through it as much as you would if it was not lined. So I'm pulling it, I'm stretching it so you can see you cannot see my skin. Now, if you have some tiggle bitties, you want to add some elastic to the top. Adding elastic is easy. You just measure your elastic around the top of your boobs. And then you hold it or you pin it to your fabric at one end, secure it, and then just do a straight stitch through, pulling it from one end to the finished end of the dress. And then you can close it on up. Actually, no, you don't close it yet. Ignore me. Once you finish the straight stitch, you want to then fold it over. You want to iron it so that it's nice and flat, and then you want to do a zigzag stitch to give it a nice finish. And I'll show you how it looks in a minute. At this point, you can close the side seams of the dress. There's only one side open at this point, so you can go ahead and close it. My mom took over. I was busy with the girls. So, she's just going to close the side seam. We're going to iron it. We're going to hem the bottom of the dress. I don't think I filmed hemming the bottom of the dress because, I mean, everybody knows to hem the bottom of the dress. So that's basically it for the dress, and then we're going to move on to the tutus and the sleeves. You can pick any kind of tulle, or sorry, any color of tulle that you like, and you're just going to do a basing stitch, so a gathering stitch, whatever you want to call it, and it's just a straight stitch all the way through. And you're going to then pull on that stitch to gather the fabric together. It's really simple. I have the Janome Skyline S7 machine, so there's a gathering stitch option. Some people like to do it by hand. You can do it however you want, but you just make sure that your fabric is folded evenly, and then you just do one straight stitch all the way across. If you want a really nice pull, especially if it's for an adult, you would probably do 2 stitches straight or parallel to each other so that you get a nice beautiful pull when you're done gathering, but I'm only going to do 1 stitch. Okay, so now that we have the 1 stitch, we're going to start pulling. As you see, I just pushed my mom's hands up into the camera. She's pulling and she's gathering the fabric. You want to be very gentle when you're doing this, because if you bust that stitch, you're going to have to start all over, and you don't want to do that. So be very, very, very careful when you're actually pulling the fabric. then want to attach the gathered fabric to a ribbon of your choosing. I chose this cool rainbow ribbon I got at the fabric store, and you want to make sure that it's nice and flat and flush with the actual tutu itself when you're sewing it down. Also, make sure you leave enough to close off or to tie off your tutu, because this is not going to be a slip-on tutu, it's going to be a tie tutu, so keep that in mind. So following that exact same method, you want to build the sleeves for mommy's dress. Only thing is, it's way shorter than a tutu, obviously. So you choose whatever length you want, you cut it, you throw the gathering stitch in there, and then you pull it, and you'll get something that looks like this. And then you want to add the ribbon to it as well. So that's what I'm going to do now. At this point, I've measured the ribbon around my arm, and I know exactly how much I need to create the sleeve. So I'm just going to cut 2 strips that are the exact same length, and I'm going to mark them with a pencil so I know exactly where to close them off. I'm then going to pin the ruffles to the ribbon and get to sewing. So at this point, the sleeve is pretty much done. I just have to secure it as a full circle and then attach it right to the dress at the armpits. And when all is said and done, you could try to take a picture with the girls, but let's be real here. Salem would never let me be great. Can I see this?
Oh, wow. Oh, good job. Oh, wow. Oh, good job. Oh, wow. Oh.